He is their parent. And what this is alluding to is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is manifest in what sense? In the sense that His existence and His attributes are evident through clear proofs. Everything points to the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-Zahir. It's not hidden. We are created in such a way, in such a fashion, that we are created with the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah exists. And that is the element of fitrah. And that is one of the most powerful arguments for the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That a person just knows that Allah exists. You can't explain it. And that's why there's certain research in this area that really suggests this point. That if a person was created and they were left on an island and they had no outside influence, not reading anything, not speaking to anyone, and just looking at where they are, they would come to a conclusion that there is a creator, a maker, a designer of the universe. They would come to that conclusion naturally. Right? But with that you have various other rational proofs, logical proof, okay, the design argument. All of these are abundantly clear. And any individual who objectively looks at it, they can't but accept the fact and the reality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists. And that is why Allah Jalla wa Ala is al-Zahir. And that is why, by the way, throughout the whole of human history, mankind has always believed in a higher being. Yes, majority of the time, they have associated partners with this higher being, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is true. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that. But they have always believed in a higher being. This idea and this notion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not exist, there is no higher being and everything is by chance, everything is a random event, it's a coincidence. Yes, you will find within history people, scattered people who may have held this opinion and this idea and this belief. But never was this a mainstream opinion. Never was this a mainstream belief until obviously the present time. Okay, where we obviously find, especially we living in the UK, if you looked at the last census, it was the first time that Christianity was no longer the major religion, right? The first time in history, right? And obviously, and again there, I think if we dig down into the data, maybe is it that people are actually saying that they don't believe in a higher being, or is it that they are agnostic? And without having dabbled too much into the figures and the data, my assumption would be more towards that, because it goes against the fitrah of people, it goes against the fitrah of mankind to deny the higher being. Right? So that is something to really understand and appreciate, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent us on this earth, but He ensured that there would be enough arguments, a plethora of arguments and proofs and baraheen that we would be able to see that would lead us straight back to Him, as long as the fitrah is intact, as long as that has not been corrupted. Then a person would always recognize that the signs